And I'm down in the hunting shack because I had to come down and dump some wood off. So I got some ash from a couple of trees that had fallen down. Because they were burning oak. There was a couple of guys stayed up here over the weekend, last weekend. And they were burning oak, but they were fighting with it a little bit. Hell of a collection of chairs. Every time we come up here, we got to throw a bunch of them chairs out. But that's the stove there. And, it's one that somebody kind of donated. They went to a corn stove. It works good. The only thing about that type of stove, they're sheet metal and they can rust out. But, oh, and there's my flying target that drives them nuts. Well, we got one more weekend, and I think it's supposed to be up in the 30s. So it should be okay. Shouldn't need a lot of wood, and I don't think anybody's staying. Though maybe, when it's that warm. But it has been like 0 or below 0 in the teens at the high, that kind of thing. But not bad. But it'll be nice to have a warm weekend. The other day I watched the show. It was kind of funny. It was on Netflix, but it was called Please Subscribe, and it was about YouTube. But I watched part of it and I lost interest in it, but because, their view of what YouTube is a lot different than what mine is. To them it's just like a commercial delivery system. What it was showing people at these big conventions and stuff. Kind of weird. That's myself. I don't subscribe to hardly any big channels. I usually am in the smaller ones. There's a few of them that I subscribe to that have got quite a few people, but most of the time I stay in the smaller ones. Just more interesting to me. The other ones are just too commercial, but I guess that's, if you're trying to get the numbers, that's what you have to do. But I don't really care about numbers. But it was interesting to a point. But like I say, it doesn't, almost all the channels they were talking about, I have no interest in. I don't subscribe to any of them, so it really wasn't anything to me. There's probably only, I bet I could count on one hand a number of big channels that I subscribe to. It's just pretty rare. But I do like monkeying around with the other ones. Because their vision of YouTube is like a commercial delivery system, but I like, it's kind of a soapbox. Anybody can get on it and say anything. Really. And I like that of it. And I like that, you don't have to have a particular agenda. If the most interesting ones are people just doing what they do, and that's what I like. I thought it was funny the other day, one of the guys that I subscribed to, he's got like 100 subscribers or something, but he's got quite a few videos out, but, if you don't get into all them contests and stuff, that's how you build up numbers. But like I say, hopefully you don't get into these big numbers. But I thought it was funny because he did a shout out to me, and what struck me as odd was because I kept planning to bring him up, and I'll mention it here. It's cabotbluegill, and I don't know how to do links because I don't do a lot of the shout out stuff. So I've never bothered with that, but I'll put his name in the description and you can look it up. Or he comments a lot of my videos. If you go back, you can go on, catch him that way. That's the way I catch a lot of people, that I really like is, they'll make a comment on my video or somebody else's video, and then I'll, if I like what they're saying or I like their attitude, I'll go and look to see what they are doing, and I find some good people that way. There's a lot of times at the smaller channels, but it's just people doing what they do. It's not, because what I don't like is when people are doing stuff you know, that's kind of pretend. You know, it's not really, you know, like the great outdoorsman, and then after the weekend they go back to their job in town and are sitting in an office, you know, and it just they aren't really living what they're portraying. So, you know, I'd sort of see what people are actually doing, not what they're pretending to be. No matter, I mean, most of that stuff on there, you know, a lot of those bigger channels, it's really strictly entertainment, and you know, entertainment's alright up to a point, but I'm looking for like a different aspect on things, and that's I find that in the smaller channels, they're just more honest, sort of. But you should check him out. You know, I've enjoyed his videos all the time, and I just thought it was funny when he mentioned me in one of his. But like I said, this is the last weekend of deer season, and I'm always glad when it's done. You know, because I hate to go and cut wood and stuff when people are trying to hunt. Like this hunting shack, you know, we've had this up for quite a few years now, but really what it is an old granary that we pulled in, and then we cut a bunch of windows in it, and it's not insulated or anything. But that's something to keep in mind on a thing like this. Like these old granaries are really well made, you know, really solid flooring and really rodent proof and stuff. Because they had to be to hold grain, so they're very solidly made. And these small granaries, you can get them pretty cheap because nobody uses these anymore. You know, it's all the big steel ones. But I know a different branch of the family, about a mile south of here, they put up a fancy hunting shack, and they insulated it. And when you insulate it, you're giving the mice a place to move in, and theirs has gotten to the point where they can't even use it anymore because it just got infested with rodents, and you know, not only being a nuisance and destroying everything, you're also running the chance of that hunter virus, you know, when you have that many mice running in a place, so they don't even use it anymore. You know, the theory is they're going to end up, they were saying they were looking for an old granary like this that they could just convert and then burn another one down. Because mice can be very destructive, and like I say, you know, health-wise could be a problem. Because you aren't up here all the time, you know, they only come up and fall, and then mice have been living in there all that time. This one, like I say, these old granaries are built tight, so we really haven't had a problem with them. But this has worked pretty good. But, you know, it's not that big, and when you get a bunch of people in here, and we've had like a dozen people in here, and most of the time pretty well drunked up and everybody hollering at everybody else, you know, it gets pretty loud in here. I keep expecting the shack to tip over sometime with all that people in here. But there, you know, it's a good solid building. But when we got it, you know, there were steel crossbars and everything to hold it from bulging. You know, they had to be cut out, and all these windows cut in. But that wasn't that big a job, and now we've got good visibility from all directions. You know, it worked out really well. But it really only gets used, you know, during hunting season. But it's good to know it's here. But that's why I'll unload enough wood to get them through the weekend and make sure there's some up here in case somebody comes up in winter skiing or snowshoeing or something. But, you know, most of the bunch are really like in their 60s, so they ain't as active as they used to be. That's why I debated on this wood when I cut it, if I should just cut small pieces or, you know, I know one of them brings an axe along, so I figured, well, I'll cut some bigger ones because they can split them up, kind of assert their manhood. They don't do a lot of axe work, so it'll give them a chance to prove themselves again. But ash is good wood for this time of year. You know, it heats up fast, but it doesn't hold the flame a long time. Overnight you won't oak, but for these daytime things, ash is plenty good. It's what I burn at home during the day too. But that's what I was going to mention, that you should check that guy's channel out, because I enjoy his channel. I like, you know, that's the kind of channels I like. That's mostly what I subscribe to. Well, and one other thing I forgot to mention yesterday when I did that video about that Lee press, there's, I had kind of brought this up on the Carhartt jeans that they'll cost you more if you order from the factory, It's just the way it works. Lee is particularly bad about that. If you're looking, like I have a Lee catalog, if I'm looking for a particular Lee product, I look up in the catalog, get the part number, then I go to eBay and I buy from a dealer off of eBay. You could get it cheaper. Like that press was a little over $100 for that set that I bought. That exact same thing from Lee lists for $190. I imagine it's a deal they worked out with their dealers, to try to. But if you do order from the factory, you kind of get burned. It's just a lot higher, almost double on a lot of things. So you should keep that in mind. But I always do look like either on their website or in their catalog to find the part number, because then you can do a search on eBay for Lee and that part number, and you find, there's a dealer I use in Minnesota all the time that lists stuff on eBay. He's out of, I can't remember the name of the town now, some little town in Minnesota, but he goes by the name of Reloader's Choice, I think, on eBay. And I get, a good price on stuff from him. Midway's a good place to check too. Once you know the part number, you can search on eBay or on Midway. But Midway a lot of times is out of a lot of stuff. But I find it on eBay all the time, so I don't know, why Midway doesn't have. Because like all the Lee loader kits and all that stuff, you can find all of them that are available. And it isn't like, you could find used ones on eBay, but you could find the new ones. A lot of dealers just know that's the place to list the stuff. And if you have the part number, you can go right to it. But I've got some good deals that way. There's been times where I've bought a gun, and even before I leave the store with the gun, I get on my phone and I order all the stuff I need for reloading for it. So it's like the one in Minnesota there that I get from. It's a couple days. It's here. And it's at a good price. But that's all. I better want to move my wood, and I'm going to do a little searching along the one draw here as long as I look.